You ready to do this thing?
Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sweaty Casuals, brought to you by the Snowflake Sanctuary Discord server. This is the podcast where we like to talk about games we love to play, from the state of rank systems to our thoughts on the newest sensations and everything in between. My name is Zach. This is my co-host Nox, and we will be your guides as we traverse Elo Hell. Small reminder: we do swear, so viewer discretion is advised. Today we're joined by Taskless and Bandito from our Discord server, and they'll be joining us as we discuss the state of single-player gaming. Our icebreaker for today: what is your favorite? No, we'll get there. What's your favorite single-player campaign?
Task, why don't you kick us off?
Ooh, that's me. All right. I don't do well with favorites because then I have to make large judgments about what was the best and what wasn't the best. One that I enjoyed recently was Horizon Zero Dawn. I know that Forbidden West just went out into Steam, and because I am cheap, I am waiting it for it to be about half price, and I can freely wait about 2-3 years for it to do that, which says something about the state of single-player games, if I may be honest.
We'll get there.
So, unlike Task, I do have my favorites and feel very comfortable making big judgments about things.
Mm-hmm.
Baldur's Gate, hands down, next to nothing, is my favorite single-player game I've ever had. From its replayability to the ability for it to be multiplayer, it is everything I could want. It's fantasy, it's romance, it's choose your own adventure, it's strategic, it's learning. I love every part of it.
What about you, Zach?
No, you, Bandito. You're
where's
next.
the fun in that? I have hard opinions. You should go next.
I have a lot of opinions too, and I'm trying to think of one, and I can't pick one. If I had to pick one, I might do Wind Waker.
Okay.
Which is so out of left field for us, but it's one of the few games that I can say I've played through the campaign probably at least a dozen times.
So all of these answers, while lovely, are objectively wrong because one of the best single-player games made would be Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. While an odd one, and I'm not one to contend with the series, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is just odd enough, just loud enough, just aggressive enough to be entertaining, regardless of when you play it, to the point where the game still holds up today. Also, while I adore the answer of Baldur's Gate 3, in my mind, much like Minecraft, that's a multiplayer game for me. It can be played both ways, but to me, I see it as more of a multiplayer. Metal Gear doesn't have that.
Can we take a second and point out the fact that Bandito here was kind enough to disregard all of our opinions and say they were wrong, but not strongly opinionated enough to claim that it was the best game, just that it was one of the best games, meaning that any of our games could also have been one of the best games.
No,
Hey, Task, remind me to bring you on the show more often, please.
Yeah, anytime Bandito's with us, Task is coming too. They're a package deal now.
So,
goodness.
Wind Waker over Majora's Mask? Honey.
I had a Nintendo 64 growing up. I didn't have Ocarina of Time. I didn't have Majora's Mask. I had a GameCube.
Okay.
And I think we've had the discussion that I had Master Quest for Ocarina of Time.
That sounds right.
On the GameCube, but I couldn't complete it. There was some bug in my game, and I just never went back.
Oh, because it was Ganon.
Yep, Puppet Ganon. Shadow Ganon.
Yeah, you couldn't reflect something?
Yeah. But I've played through Wind Waker multiple times, and I adore that game. I think it's so well done. It's also just a lot of fun. It's got a fun combat style. Let's touch on what Task brought up. So, single-player games, in general, have been very expensive as of late. So, and AAA title now is about $70, give or take.
70.
For the base game.
Which is It's a lot of money. On one hand. On the other hand, a movie ticket costs what, $20 right now? About that, depending on where you live.
I would say mine averaged 12 in the upper Midwest.
Yeah,
or take,
I would
yeah.
say that a movie going experience may be $20+, but the ticket
Oh,
only is probably
easily.
12.
I'm getting my tub of popcorn. I'm getting my large soda, my little snackies.
Let's
That's
say
a
we're all
$40
let's say
trip.
we're all min-maxing though, and we're spending $12 at the movies, and we're going to see a 3-hour movie. That's
Oppenheimer,
15
let's
hours of
go.
entertainment for $60.
Well, when you put it like that.
Also, just casually using the phrase min-maxing a conversation. That's a new one.
Look, it's been coming up a lot, okay?
We just gotta min-max our life, boys.
That was a flashbang of words.
We were min-maxing The Sims last week. We were min-maxing Civilization.
Min-maxing is the optimal way to have fun. Spending your time figuring out the right way to play it is much more fun than just playing it. That's objectively true.
The only argument I want to make with that point, though, is on the one hand, yes, $60 is a lot of money. And it's a lot of money to put up front into a product that you're not wholly convinced you're actually going to enjoy. But on the flip side, if you get a 15-hour campaign out of a game, there's actually a good, solid argument that you've made a good investment.
Also, it does depend on the game, because there are some
Yes.
that are very replayable. But
Mhm.
Minecraft, Elden Ring, you could play those thousands of different ways.
I feel like Minecraft is an easy sell, because even now, I think
Yeah.
it's still $30.
Give or take.
It was cheaper now.
Maybe it has gone down. But the point being that it's not... It doesn't play like a AAA game, and it definitely is at this point, but it's also not priced like a AAA game.
$20, unless you want the deluxe collection, which is $30. I don't know what you
Point
get.
being, Minecraft is an excellent game, and it's well worth the value.
Because I would also argue that games like Baldur's Gate, I've gotten more than my money's worth
Mm-hmm.
for that game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about the YouTube short that went up not too long ago, where you had your hours up for... How many hours did you have in it?
271. I'm doing the min-max. How much I spent per hour. 271 divided by $70. For every hour that I played Baldur's Gate, I paid $3.87.
Which is a pretty good value.
But you want to know what doesn't, what value does
What are you
beat that?
dividing it by?
$70. The fact that I have 700 hours in Apex and I haven't paid a cent.
Yes. However, you're also... So in terms of that one, you're living off the whales. You're living off the people who actually pay for skins and for battle passes and...
Okay, I
all of
lied. I
those
put
things.
$30 into the game. I bought 2 battle passes.
Shame.
Look, still $30 for 750 hours. Let's do that math real quick.
Someone did their math wrong.
5 cents per hour.
Wait.
The look on your face just now.
It's all about 4 cents an hour.
Why did it work for Baldur's Gate, but
I
not
got
this one?
4.8 for Baldur's Gate.
Not so
I
bad.
have no fucking idea what that means.
You're just going to take 700 and...
But that's
Or, I'm sorry, $30 divided by 750.
I had my numbers flipped. Sorry. I was a communications major. 4 cents an hour.
It's
So
about
whoever
what,
said that
4
earlier,
cents an
thank
hour.
you. Tom major.
And that's also not to say...
That goes
Sorry, Task.
into, can I? Or
Yeah,
No.
yes.
Okay. One of the things about multiplayer games and cosmetic-based games in general is that it's easy for people to lose track of the amount they're spending because it's an ongoing expenditure. especially with a game like Overwatch, or I play a lot of Marvel Snap, even though it's not your traditional multiplayer game the way we're thinking of it. If it's $10 per month on a battle pass, and I play maybe 5 hours a week, that's 20 hours at $10 a week, at $10 a month. It's about 50 cents an hour, which isn't a ton, and by the metrics we're going off of for movies, it's nothing. But there's also a lot of continuous advertising going to try and get me to spend more money on the game, and it's very appealing. I think that they're very successful in making that desire to purchase something, to have something to show to others, very appealing, and it's kind of why I think Nox is very able to play 750 hours worth of Apex Legends while only spending $30, or effectively $0 if you want to spend $0, because there are so many people who are willing to spend that extra money, see that value in having those skins, having that cosmetic appeal. So it's interesting, and it's definitely a lot of fun, but it can be misleading to say that it's effectively free, when
Absolutely.
the appeal and the reason they're willing to let you do that is because so many people are willing to spend more money in that environment.
Agreed with everything there.
Wholeheartedly. I want to steer us back because I feel like we've kind of delved into the, man, games are really overpriced, and that's a good topic, but we're not going to do that today. Let's touch back. So one of the things that we mentioned about spending money on a single player game was whether or not you're actually going to enjoy it, which is a whole nother realm of things. Task, you and I have both played Horizon Zero Dawn and have both absolutely loved it. But I'll be one of the first to admit, I don't like the combat system.
That's fair.
I don't like constantly having to swap weapons, and it feels really clunky sometimes.
Sure.
And I granted, part of it's because you played on PC, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so you played it with keyboard and mouse?
I did for a while, and then I actually got a controller, and I played it a bit on controller as well, and I think it's a nicer experience with a controller. But regardless, it's a bit clunky.
I know Bandito and Nox have also played Jedi Fallen Order. Both of you have said you want a controller for that.
Bandito, what was it that you said to me when you watched me play Survivor the other night?
It hurt my head.
And why?
There were multiple reasons.
Okay. Pertaining to this topic.
Okay. Like, you would forget button, and you would have to go back every 20 minutes, double check, hey, I have that ability. I can use that. I just need to press that button. And then, oh, hey, I have that ability that I actually really need. Let me go check and see what button it goes on. On a controller, you don't have to do that. You just spam the few buttons you have until something works. Which it does.
Jedi, Survivor, and Fallen Order have been one of the most frustrating controls that I've ever played. I understand it wasn't built for keyboard and mouse.
It's not.
Like, that wasn't the design. It is blatantly stated when you start both of those games that the experience is better with a controller. I get it. I'm stubborn. I have a keyboard and mouse in front of me. I'm going to play with a keyboard and mouse. I don't remember what my 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 do. It's something with the Force. Couldn't tell you what. But anyway.
See, I'm the exact opposite.
I think Zach had a point with this, and I...
The only point I wanted to make with it is that, any game that you spend money on will have a value to it, but just because our experience may be one that's not always shared. Both of you own PlayStation controllers that you can connect to your PC, if I recall correctly.
Somewhere.
I do, yes.
But yeah. Okay. Everybody here has a controller that they can connect to their PC. Not everyone does, and that does impact the gameplay experience, and that could make or break whether or not you've spent $60 or $70 on a game and whether or not it's actually a worthwhile value for you.
I would agree. I would say, actually, I was talking about this earlier, that Jedi Survivor has been incredibly infuriating for me because I don't want to bump the game down to its easiest difficulty to play it. but because I don't want that experience. I want to play it how it was intended at its normal difficulty and have the feeling of success when I beat it. But it's the controls are so infuriating that I literally don't want to open the game.
Fair.
But that might be me. I should just grab my damn controller. Is what I should do.
I was about to draw Doom Eternal again for the second time because I couldn't fuck with the keyboard controls. I barely made it through halfway of Hell on Earth before I rummaged through, because it's not a PlayStation game. I couldn't use my PS5 controller for it. I ended up finding an old Xbox controller that I've been using for like the past week. It's miles better. I actually completed the game.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something.
Very nice.
But I also think this gets into another point of what single player games can do that multiplayer games can't most of the time, in which they are not just selling you a game that you're playing, they're also selling you a story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They're selling you an
absolutely.
experience. That's why I want to finish Survivor. I don't really like close melee combat systems at all.
You don't want to do
really.
Dark Souls?
I really hate it. I'm not good at it. I've never been one to play that. I didn't grow up on Smash Brothers, even though I think you could argue that that has a lot of different combat styles. But I didn't grow up on melee combat games. What I want out of that experience is the story. I want to know what happens next to Cal Kestis. I want to know what BD1 is doing now, because that little droid does wonders. Like, that's, I want to know more about. Mine's back there too somewhere. But I'm there for the experience of the game and what it adds to the larger Star Wars universe. I think Baldur's Gate is somewhat of the same way too. You play for the story. The combat is cool. D&D combat is cool. But you're there because you get to make your own story. You know. I'm trying to think of other multiplayer games that have story with them.
I feel like it's become an add-on almost for a lot of older titles. The one that jumps to mind is Halo. Halo is not focused on the single-player campaign anymore. It's focused around the multiplayer, and then they just kind of like, oh yeah, and there's a story attached to it.
Which is really a shame. The story for the original Halo games was...
Oh yeah, the first three were great.
Fantastic.
4? 5? 5. First 5.
Not number
I mean, the
five,
first
but
three
the first
were...
5.
One through Reach.
Yep, there's the good ones.
That's... I think, but the first three were iconically in a class of their own.
Yep.
And I'd say Reach did a good job of adding without... Reach did a good job of adding without, like, overstepping. And then ODST kind of just had a nice little story that was kind of its own little thing.
I definitely agree with Nox. I think that the story is something that you don't get as much with multiplayer games. There are multiplayer games that try to build a story, and that if they're able to do it collaboratively, it can be a really cool experience to share with other people, much in the same way that D&D can be. But I think that with single-player games, they're able to introduce a whole lot of information and a whole lot of story in a way that allows for interaction, encourages you to pursue the things that are most interesting to you, but also is just rich in the amount of detail and world building that they can provide. And I think that was the thing that I really liked about Zero Dawn, was it was a very cool story. It was an interesting idea. It was something that I could come back to and talk to friends about how they experienced the game, what they thought of the story, what they thought of the idea of things changing in the world in that way. And that's a science fiction concept in and of itself, but I think it was really well done with that game, and it can be in a lot of other single-player games.
I think the thing that game also did so well was there are so many things that you can kind of figure out right off the bat that you can go, oh yeah, I think this is what's going on. And almost all of them are correct. Like, you kind of get this sense right from the beginning that X, Y, and Z is happening. but they introduce it to you in the right way where you're like, oh, and there's just that little bit of a twist to it.
Absolutely.
I think a big thing is that a lot of multiplayer games, the thing that makes it interesting is that you're interacting in this world with other people. You get to have fun in this experience with others. It doesn't require much as a base. You could be doing fucking nothing, just shooting down a hallway for 2 hours straight. But if you're with people, it can still be entertaining. Single player games don't have that. You can't do that. People will lose their minds and lose interest.
Well, unless it's Doom.
Unless it's Doom, but that's its own thing. It's in its own category.
But Doom has such good animations; it keeps you
has a
hooked.
really nice
Oh
story.
yeah.
I think it's the music more than anything
Oh, the
that
music
hooks
is
people
good
in.
too.
Has everyone here played BioShock?
No, you tried to get me to. I think I played like 3 hours of it.
Oh,
I played one of them. I don't know which one. It might have been Infinite, but I don't remember.
I
if
own
all
all
of you
three
could,
of them.
would you kindly play through that game?
But that would require me to jump into the game and remember my controls, which isn't my forte.
Would you kindly
Maybe.
finish
We'll
that
see.
game?
General question. Do you consider Overwatch or something like Apex to have a story?
Yes. However, Apex kind of attaches its story on the side. I get those markers, I think, every time I open the game that's like, there's a new chapter available. And I immediately press, cool, skip.
Means nothing.
Overwatch is clever about it. It's all
They're
hidden
better
in
about
plain
it,
sight.
yeah.
If you listen to the way characters talk to each other, there's little bits and pieces where they have dialogue that's going in between them and telling you what's going on, even within the map. So all the map designs have a story to them. And each individual mission, for the most part, I think some of the newer maps haven't done it, but the older maps have a whole story element to them. So, for example, King's Row
Has a whole cinematic.
It does,
Does it?
yes. Yes, at the
Yeah.
end.
Sure does,
You
yeah.
have the big EMP going off. If you
Yes.
complete.
But the whole point of it is the attackers are trying to push a bomb to go blow up the Omnics.
Oh.
Yep.
No, I'm
trying to
thinking of
think
the
of what-
cinematic that Widowmaker is trying to assassinate one of the Omnics.
Yes, that was unrelated, but yes, there is that cinematic.
Happens on King's Row, at least.
It does happen on King's Row.
That's interesting.
I'm trying to think what some of the other ones were, because I used to know a bunch of them. Someone else wants to chime in.
I'm trying to think of other ones that could.
A lot of
only
the earlier
original-
ones have them.
The only original apps I can also think of are like Hanamura and Temple of Anubis.
Wow. Callbacks.
Yeah, the 2CP maps, I think they were just less fleshed out. Actually, Temple of Anubis, I know you're supposed to be going to you're supposed to be infiltrating the space for the Anubis AI.
That's so interesting. I wish they would share these things.
Numbani, that was the other really big one. So Numbani, if you look at the cart, there is an empty glass container on it. Originally, in there was Doomfist's gauntlet. And the story was that you were taking the gauntlet to the museum.
Sure.
Which is the last spawn point for defenders.
You want to know the big issue about that?
And then when Doomfist got introduced, the gauntlet came out.
This is so
slight issue
interesting. Bandito, go first.
Small problem. It doesn't fucking matter. It is a 5v5. No one gives a shit.
But I think people
there's
would.
Flavor text.
Imagine if they're... Take a step back for a second. I'm going to preface this, and maybe I'm dumb and missed it. I'm not the most perceptive person you've ever met. But I didn't know those things about this game, and I've been playing that game since 2017. Like, I've been here since almost the beginning. And I didn't know that that was a thing. Imagine, let's say you jumped into King's Row or Numbani, and there was a 30-second intro that played that had the story before you picked your characters. Welcome to Numbani. Here's the situation. I think that would add to lore. Maybe that's crazy.
I think you would
I think
skip
you
it
could-
after 5 or 10 times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those you could have it play once and then you'd never want to see it again.
I mean, that's fair.
And the problem with that is that Overwatch isn't doing that because it doesn't matter.
Well, they also fired their whole lore team, but that's a separate conversation.
That is
We'll
a
discuss that
separate
another time.
issue. Overwatch has its own problems.
I'm derailing again. Oh no. Who would have thought?
No, my issue, like Apex, is not an Apex story game. It is a Titanfall story with a little attached at the end of it to give a little, hey, it's still
Okay, you
alive.
brought it up and I wanted
Still
to.
exists.
Let's talk about Titanfall 2. Nox, you need to play Titanfall 2.
Do you
Okay.
haven't played
No.
Titanfall 2 yet?
It's like a funny story.
I convinced her to buy it.
I went to download it on my Steam one day,
Mhm.
and I set it to download, and then I opened another game. I can't remember if it was Apex or Overwatch, but an online multiplayer game that takes a lot of bandwidth to play. And the download was messing with my games, so I paused the download at like 13%. I haven't touched it since. My computer files somewhere have 13% of the game downloaded onto it. I have the icon on my desktop. It's there. 13% of it.
You know?
We could do a whole podcast on whether or not
Fan-fucking-tastic.
BD or BT7274 is the better droid, and there'd be strong arguments for both sides.
Fine, I'll play it.
By no contest. I love BD. Don't get me wrong. It's BD.
BT he kicks some
Uh-huh.
serious ass.
Oh yeah. Just with the end. Mm-hmm. It's pretty phenomenal.
If
The-
we're talking about best droid, sorry, I don't want to derail further. K2SO is the best droid ever. Sorry. That
Oh,
is-
Alan Tudyk is, yeah. Yeah, but that's one that Titanfall 2 got screwed for so many ways. So for people who are unaware, that came out on the same weekend as Battlefield Bad Company, if I recall.
I don't remember.
It was either that or it was a Call of Duty game. And then the following weekend was one of the other ones. Like, its whole release got buried. And when Titanfall 1 came out, like, it was one of those games where everybody kind of went, oh, this is kind of cool, and picked it up for like 2 weeks and then dropped it.
And then
But
drop.
Titanfall 1 was multiplayer only. So the fact that they not only made a story mode for a game that originally was multiplayer only, and then absolutely knocked it out of the park was shocking.
Mhm.
It is one of the most underrated story campaigns you can absolutely play. Hands down.
No contest.
Fine, I'll play it.
I haven't played it.
It goes on
years.
sale on Steam for
So-
$10. Grab it.
Yes, that's when I picked it up too. Yep. Mhm. It's still
Just for
in
the
my
story
pocket.
mode. Don't play don't play the multiplayer. Sorry, everybody who plays that. Love you guys, but you all are way too sweaty,
Yeah, it's problematic.
and nobody can actually start playing the game anymore. It's like hopping
Unless
into
you
a
have a
top
full
500
group.
lobby.
I got like 3 people and we fucked around on multiplayer for a few hours, and it was okay, but it's not sustainable.
Anytime I think I hopped into like 2 matches, and it was just immediate. Like, I didn't even have time to turn around corners. Everybody in that game knows every map, where it is, how things work, where they're going. It's like hopping into a top 500 lobby in Overwatch.
I think that's one of the great things about single player games, though, is that everyone can experience it for the first time in their own time when they're ready. That when you're looking at the single player campaign of a Titanfall 2, I've never played it. I've looked at it, don't really know much about it. But really, any single player game, that campaign can introduce itself at the appropriate difficulty. You have some control over what that difficulty is, and you're able to address it and understand the story without being overwhelmed by the uh, enemies that you're facing.
For sure.
So obviously we've talked a lot about how story seems important to us and how we even try to dig it out of multiplayer games that aren't necessarily using it as a focus.
Mhm.
Kind of changing the topic a little bit, flipping on its head, what does a good multiplayer title do that a single player title cannot?
Replayability.
Yeah, I can justify that.
Definitely not the first thing that I was going to say. I think that replayability is bigger and more necessary with a multiplayer game, but there are a lot of good single player games, especially if you like roguelikes and different types of card games that offer a lot of replayability in a single player context. I think Slay the Spire is considered one of the most replayable games of all time, and it has no aspects that are multiplayer. It's not asking you to work with another person to try and make a different experience. It's just introducing things in a way that you haven't seen before because of your different seeds, the different things that are offered, the different things you see every run. And multiplayer games do it in a very different and very exceptional way. But I would say that the easiest thing to say that is different, that is offered in a multiplayer game, that is not offered in a single player game, is that connection with others. Whether you're meeting new people, which often gets a bad rap and sometimes deservedly, because people can be nasty and competitive and derivative when they are talking to people anonymously.
We're not talking about Bandito.
We're not exclusively talking about Bandito, of course.
But he might get lumped in. We don't know.
Maybe.
Right. I think that
for legal reasons I cannot say.
We're all kind of mean sometimes, and some of us are mean most of the time. Again, not talking about anyone in particular.
He fucking got your ass.
I am who I am. Okay.
I'm just saying that, like, the biggest thing is when you're playing with friends and with people that you know and you trust, and you want to experience that with them. I think that talking with people and just hanging out can be fun, but when you add that game into it, you're all concentrated on something, focusing on something, you're escaping reality and your own problems for long enough and just doing something that's entertaining and has some value. And that's the first thing I think of when I think of a multiplayer game, not as opposed to a single player game.
And I would fully agree. I know last episode when we were talking with Gig and with Foon about cozy gaming and the Sims, the Minecrafts, the Stardew Valleys of the world, the Animal Crossings, how I like those games for a certain amount of time, but I get bored because there's nobody there with me. And that's why I consistently go on Overwatch binges or recently Hearthstone binges. Even though Hearthstone is arguably a single player game, it can be social in an aspect of other people are playing the same game with you. So I guess that's not a great example, but Apex binges, things like that. Because I have people around me, like Tass said, doing the same thing and we're connecting over the same thing and having a shared experience within it.
Double down on that. I just completed Doom Eternal. I could not go through it if I didn't have something else going on to focus on. More often than not, you'd find me in a Discord call, just hanging out, listening to people play other games, struggling to learn Hearthstone for hours while I was going through Hordes of Demons.
I was going to say, you were swearing from time to time.
Yeah, okay, it's not. I wasn't good at the game. Don't get me wrong. I was still like, I'm not great at it, but I had fun. That's the point. But having the voices on the other side, being able to interact with them if I was feeling like it while playing it, made it so much more enjoyable. So I completely understand the need to get away from it for a bit.
I think Zach does bring up a good comment, though, with the replayability and specifically cheap replayability. I mean, I think replayability in general is cheap because you're doing the same thing twice and you already paid for it. But if you want to look at it on just a times thing, I've probably played Too many Overwatch games to count. I've played through Baldur's Gate 3 times.
Only 3?
I have more than 3 campaigns running, but I've only completed the game 3 times. I lied twice.
I have at least 312
I never
competitive
finished my Dark
matches.
Urge run.
Oh god, no. Again, especially like Baldur's Gate, I played through it, I think, at least a dozen times. Because I needed to get everything. I had to get every ending. I had to know. I needed to know what was going on.
Right. But anyway, I think that the cheap also comes in the fact of your time.
Yeah.
It's cheaper in that you're replaying games for every time you replay an Overwatch game, it's only 20 minutes of your time. Hopefully. Good dear God. You've been in some of those long ones.
Yeah.
But there's also the dopamine kick that comes in with replayability of multiplayer games, specifically competitive online multiplayer games. You got to get that one more point of SR. I did the same thing last night. I didn't go to bed until I hit 4,000 on Hearthstone.
Good for you.
Thanks.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Hey, I've been playing that game for like a week and I'm already at 4,000.
That means nothing.
That means I've played way too much. When I tell you last weekend on Saturday, I woke up at 12:30. I sat down and played Hearthstone until 2 o'clock in the morning. That is what I did all day.
I'm waiting until you hit 12,000.
For context, Nox, I think I
did you
just hit
just
5,000.
enter Hearthstone?
Yeah, I'm checking my SR.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm 5310. Yeah.
How much did you play today? You were at like 4,000 earlier.
Not that much. I just get like you get like 200 to 300 for taking first. So
yeah.
it's
Anyway.
not
Good.
Anyway, that replayability of wanting to hit that next milestone, I think, is huge in multiplayer games, especially psychologically.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Does anybody here also do any achievement hunting?
No.
Bandito does.
I've done it in the past, sure.
I'm not proud of it, okay? But some games scratch that itch in the back of your brain and you just gotta.
Do you have all the
I
achievements
need
on
to.
Baldur's Gate yet?
Not all of them. I have a lot of them. Hold on, let me look at the number. I have 48 out of 53. However,
Pretty good.
to get those last ones will require me to do some obnoxious things, one of which includes killing Karlach, and I refuse to do that. So
Look, we all have moral boundaries.
Yes, I'm content with my 48 out of 54. Small price to pay. But yes.
I still remember when we finished our honor run and we're like, oh, none of us are ever going to go for what was the other highest difficulty under honor?
Tactician.
Tactician.
And then it gave us for both.
Yeah, we all said that we wouldn't. That was one achievement we'd never get because who would want to go through the game on Tactician if it wasn't honor? And because we completed honor, it counted it as a finish for every single difficulty. So we did get the Tactician achievement with it.
What about you, Task? Have you done any achievement hunting?
I've done some in the past. Nothing really comes to mind. I haven't played Baldur's Gate, so I can't talk about that one.
It's our loss.
I look at achievement hunting more as like something fun when it comes up, when you see it, when it's like, oh, you did this, you did that. This is the first time you've done this. But I'm not usually willing to put in the hours and the time to go for everything unless it's really easily doable.
I would agree. I've
That's
never actively achievement hunted in my life. Zach, I know you've done a lot of achievement hunting.
I haven't done a lot of it, but I'm happy to do it because I'm pretty patient. I'm generally pretty patient when it comes to things. You know, last podcast episode took 12 hours to get out. I got it done though.
You're good.
But I argue that your shiny Path of Solitude in Pokemon is, while not like you're not hunting multitudes of achievements, you're just hunting the one. But how many hours have you sunk into that?
Do I have battery in this
Too
thing
many.
right now? Doesn't have battery right now. Last time I checked, I
Yes.
have like 470 hours.
That's a lot of time to spend on an achievement. A single
Yeah.
one. That's
Yeah.
insane.
For a minute though, for me, it's Taylor's like I put effort into it. You look at my achievements and you can see that I spent time with the game. I put energy into it because I enjoyed it.
And I'll just call you a nerd for it.
Yeah, Risk of Rain 2. I have all 116 except 118 except for 2 achievements because they're bullshit. However, I would
What are they?
It's dumb. Hold on, let me go pull it up because it pisses me off every fucking time.
That's my thing is like, so when I want to do achievement hunting in a game, usually what I do is I'll go look at the achievements. And there are some games that I look at and I immediately go, this is not worth my time. I forget what game it is, but there's one that you have to be in like the top 10 on the leaderboard
Yeah.
for globally. I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. That's not worth it.
As
Jedi Fallen Order, on the other hand,
I've 100% in that game multiple times.
I have as well. And I think that was a great way to do it because you have to beat it on the, you don't have to beat it on the hardest difficulty. It's the second hardest.
Yeah, I think it is the second hardest.
Other than that, it's tasking you basically to fully explore every map and fully search every nook and cranny and actually just experience everything that the game has. I don't
Which
really have an
feels
issue with that.
definitely worth your time.
100%. Those achievements, by the way, as mercenary, complete a prismatic trial without falling below 100%. Basically, do a challenge perfect, which I can't do. As loader, kill 3 other loaders in a basically arena, which requires 3 other people to first be playing the same characters to enter in that arena, and then for me to beat all of them. So the game pisses me off. I haven't had issues with any of the other ones, but those ones upset me. But I love the game. Outside of those 2 achievements,
I always think
the
it's
achievement
way more interesting to look at the achievements people refuse to get rather than the ones that they spend time on.
Yeah, I
I
kind
think
of
that's a
understand
way
that.
more interesting take on achievement hunting. But
That's justified.
Task, out of curiosity, how many achievements in Horizon do you have?
Let's take a look.
Because that's another one that I went out of my way to 100%, and it was well worth it because you got to experience every single story ending, every single character interaction.
I am at 33 more. Well, no, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 plus 23. I've got 34 more to do.
Okay.
It's
So you
just
have
not
about half, if I recall?
a little over half.
Yeah.
But like it's interesting when I got them, I got the ones that were doable. I haven't 100%ed the game. I haven't even seen all of it. But again, it was nice when it was there, and it wasn't for me just getting everything done. It was more about. I think I was very excited when I finished the story and I saw what everything had become.
It is a really engaging story.
Yep.
so starting to kind of wrap up a little bit. As time progresses and we're seeing games increase in price because things are increasingly more expensive to make, and we're consistently getting better quality games as well, hopefully. Do you guys see the trend of getting, I don't know how I want to phrase this. Do you see multiplayer games and single player games gaining traction, or are single player games going to more fall off? Where do we think we're going? Because I think there's an argument for both. Give my answer in case my question didn't quite make sense. For example, I think, and this might be a little boomer of me, Gen Z and the upcoming generations, we have a shorter attention span. It's proven. It's insane. I used to be able to watch movies on end, and I can't anymore because I get bored because I'm not doing 3 things at once. Attention spans are a thing. I think that is going to heavily hurt single player games because it requires a lot more time and dedication to get what you need out of a single player game rather than going and jumping in a 20-minute Overwatch match. That provides way more dopamine quicker than sitting through a single player campaign. So I personally worry about the future of single player campaigns because A, they're either going to lose that traction with younger audiences, or they're going to have to adapt to try to get psychologically hit those dopamine hits to keep people engaged. I don't know. That's my hot take.
Task, what are your thoughts?
I think that, first of all, I would go back to what something Bandito said earlier was you can have a single player game and still be doing 2 other things at once, get that 3 things at once going.
You're right.
And I'm probably at fault for doing that as much as anybody else, even if I am technically a millennial instead of a Gen Z.
It's those damn phones.
I think that one of the things that I worry about for single player games is that the price is a hard competition. That when you are competing with a multiplayer game that can be cosmetic only, that seems basically free, it can be hard to convince yourself to spend that $70. And it's something that I very rarely do, even though I like single player games a lot. I will have a hard time saying I'm going to spend $60 or $70 on a game at release if I can wait a few years or just look at things that have been out for a while and I can see a game that I really like or a game that's incredible in and of itself. I would put Skyrim as an example. That Skyrim is and was a fantastic game that people still play excessively to this day, and you can get it for about $10 on sale very easily. And there's so many other games that you can get on sale for so little relative to their original base price, simply because they want to get as much money back for their investment as they can, even if that means that they're not getting the original price that they wanted or that they needed to cover the costs of the game itself. And if you're not getting back the costs of the game, you're just not incentivized to continue making those games. So it's hard to say. I'll be really sad if we don't see the same quality of single player games going forward, but that's not going to drive my my buying habits, at least. And I know that I'm not necessarily what's the word I'm looking for? A prime
The average
example.
consumer?
The average consumer, thank you. But I just don't see an appeal of buying a game right away if I can wait and get it for a third the price in the future. Now, I know that might be something other people don't feel the same way, that they're willing to spend that extra money for a game that's new and exciting and they can talk to their friends about.
Bandito?
So, big tip of the episode, a Bandito of the day, if you will. Don't buy Skyrim. Todd Howard doesn't deserve any more money. Anyways.
Only buy it on sale if you're gonna buy it.
Only on sale. He doesn't need any more. He got what he wanted.
The modified tip is wait for the Steam sale.
If you're sold on it.
Even from just me alone, I've been moving more towards multiplayer games than I have in the rest of my life. Originally, I would only play, like, a big thing I had growing up was Black Ops. I would play zombies exclusively. I didn't really see the appeal of multiplayer. My brother did, but I didn't care for it. Nothing. It gave me no enjoyment. Even moving to other games that were more popular in their multiplayer than they were their campaign or their side stories, it wasn't my thing. However, in the coming years, I've kind of gravitated more towards games like Overwatch, unfortunately Apex, Helldivers is a big one. I've moved more towards community-based groups. I don't know why, but it just has more satisfaction playing. There's more value to it in my mind.
Because we're Zoomers.
Yeah. It doesn't give... single-player games don't have the same kick they used to. It doesn't have that energy that I'm looking for. I had to. How old is Doom Eternal? Old.
2018?
I think it's later than
Is it?
that. I don't know.
I
am
don't know off the top of my
as
head.
we speak. 2020. Damn.
Okay, it's only 4 years old.
It's not as bad as I thought. I had to look for a game 4 years ago rather than anything new today for enjoyment. Because there was nothing else that was really there. There was nothing that had that spark of, hey, you should play now kind of a thing. No,
Hey,
I don't
listen.
put it that.
What about you, Zach?
I believe that there is definitely truth in what you and Bandito in particular have said, where the younger generation attention span is different. I think the bigger thing is that, Task, you and I grew up with games that were more single player oriented,
Yep.
and there were a lot more of them.
Yes.
Whereas you youngins
More
have
being a relative
gotten-
term.
Yes. However, you youngins have grown up with a lot more online experiences, just more social games, just period. With that,
We got
said,
called
however-
youngins.
With friends.
Hey,
That's
stop
just
bragging.
it. If you wanted to play with friends when we were growing up, you had to invite the friends over to play the video games. Like there wasn't just a
Hey, I
built-in
did that
online.
too.
Yeah, Diablo 3. I would play exclusively in person.
I told you
Yeah, but you
guys the
never
story
had to do that.
way a while ago on an episode when we were talking about Gen Z versus millennials, and we were talking about couch gaming. And I was not allowed to play Super Smash Brothers growing up because it was too violent. So I had to go to my neighbor's house and we played Super Smash Bros. There.
Nice.
I think for me, it was Army of Two. I had to sneak out of the house and then to my brother's friend's apartment to play the game because it was
Classy.
too much for my young mind.
How old were you?
I had 8, 9.
You were sneaking out of the house at 9?
I was with my brother. I
Oh,
guarantee
okay.
my parents knew. They were just like, fine, just get it over with, make sure it's something simple. Which I still stand by it. Army of Two, fantastic game.
My favorite one of those is my parents wouldn't let me watch a rated R movie until I was 14, but I was allowed to play Halo at 7.
Ooh.
It is what it is, man. It's not
They
the
didn't know
blood
better.
guns they get.
No, they really didn't. Anyway, the point I wanted to make on this, though, there's this quote from a book that I love, which is, "Story is the currency of human contact." When we talk about stories, whether they be fictional, whether they be something we've experienced, they are the way that we share our experiences with the world, and they're ways that we relate to common experiences. I don't think single player games are going to ever disappear completely. I think there's always going to be a place for them. I do think we're going to continue to see this AAA studio continue to start. They're not going to invest it as much. Task, you put it excellently. Multiplayer games are just too profitable. That's just the sad truth of it. But I hope that we will get more indie games and that they will be playable. That's all they have to be. They don't have to be a work of art. They don't need to be the greatest programmed thing ever. Hell, look at the original Pokemon games. They're held together with string and paper clips. People still play the shit out of them.
Oh yeah. I mean, Missing No is a classic at this point.
Oh yeah, I've got my Mew.
And then I would say, like, I'm a huge
For
Super
anybody
Smash
who's
Brothers
looking
Melee
for it, you have
fan.
to go use strength on the truck outside Vermilion City.
Yeah.
I
I'm a
hate
huge
that you
Super
know that off
Smash
the top of your
Brothers
head.
Melee fan.
Guys are
And
That
so
was a running rumor around the schoolyard.
Oh.
uh,
Task, take it away. What were you saying?
I'm a huge Super Smash Brothers Melee fan, and that whole game was put together in 9 months. And that half of the tech that we use today, like the tech skill, and is basically just bugs in the game that they didn't intend to work. And so now people are exploiting that. Like the shine mechanic was basically meant to be a reflector, and now it's considered one of the most powerful moves in the game. Like there's literally a major tournament named after it. That it's just one of those things where games are put together quickly, can still be very fun and last for a long time. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that now in indie games where you don't have to put together something huge. I think Bellatra is a huge example of a single player game that was put together by, I think, one developer, that he did not expect it to blow up the way it did, but it was so entertaining for so many people and it's become so profitable that that's something we're going to see a lot more of, and that people are going to try and swing big. And when you have a lot more people trying to swing big, you have opportunities for great games to pop up out of the rough. Those gems in
Stardew's
the dirt.
another example of that. We talked about on last episode how Stardew was made by one person.
Yeah,
And Minecraft.
absolutely.
And Minecraft. But
So yeah, 2 great games and 1 shitty one, but like right there.
you can decide which is which.
Let's not go down that road. We don't want to piss anybody off too
Besides
much.
the audience.
The point I was trying to make was that we all as humans are storytellers. We want to be storytellers. Heck, most of this podcast is us storytelling when it comes down to it. That is a part of the experience. So I don't think the games are going anywhere.
I just
With
think
that
we'll see a
said,
decline.
I think in AAA in particular, yes. Let's start to wrap it up. We'll get into our real world segment. This is where we talk about things that are going on in our lives outside of gaming. Sometimes it's about gaming, but not usually. We can talk about books we're reading, movies we're watching, music we're listening to, things going on in our life, just general things going on. Task. Want to get us started?
I got an electric bike for the summer.
Ooh,
It's been
That's
amazing.
exciting.
Yeah, it's an adventure Adventure Point 2, I think is what it's called officially, but it's just super easy to ride. Goes an easy 20 miles per hour without any effort. I got something stuck in my eye while I was riding it today, which is a pain in the butt, but now I know that I need glasses or goggles, so that's been just one of the highlights of my life over the past couple months.
nice. How about you, Bandito?
Oh god. Is it bad that one of the big things that happened? I got a table.
Table!
I got a really nice table.
Table.
But I got a table.
Good for you.
What does
No,
the
it
table?
really-
What does the table hold?
it opens. The top half of it, you can pull it open. I've been seeing it on TikTok Shop. I didn't believe it. And then there were a bunch of sales, so I got it for $7
How big is it?
with free returns. Oh god, I don't know how to describe it, man. It's a good table. It gets the job done. Right now I'm using it as a kind of mantle. It has a small TV stand on it. So
Cute.
it's something.
It's the simple pleasures in life.
Indeed.
Knox, what about you?
Star Wars is so back, baby. Star Wars is
I haven't
so
watched
back.
it. I haven't
It's
watched
so
it yet. I'm
back.
sorry.
Acolyte?
The Acolyte came out yesterday.
Don't spoil it. I haven't seen it
No
either.
spoilers. The first 2 episodes dropped yesterday. Before I came to record the podcast, actually finished up watching the first 2 episodes with my boyfriend. I tend to have a healthy amount of skepticism whenever viewing anything new that comes out from things like Star Wars and Marvel these days.
Reasonable.
For a lot of reasons that I won't go into. It's a healthy skepticism. But my coworker came into the office this morning when I was at work, and she is somebody who we have very similar interests. But while I will say, I just love this thing and there are no flaws, she'll go, I love it, but I wish they would have done A, B, and C better. She's very hypercritical of the things that we love. When she came into the office this morning and said, The Acolyte is so great, I was floored. I was stoked. She had no notes. It is wonderful. If you were able to see the sneak preview of the show, I know I watched it after I went and saw Phantom Menace in theaters when it re-aired. That is the opening to the show. So you jump in right where you saw the sneak preview. The casting is wonderful. It's Amandla Stenberg, who you might know as Rue from the Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
She is wonderful. She is so incredibly talented. You'll love her. None of you will get this reference. She's very Selena from Throne of Glass, the SJM series. So I love her even more. My favorite character that I hadn't known about going into this that you'll fall in love with is Master Soul. Is a big player in the episodes. He's played by Lee Jung-jae, who you will recognize as the lead character from Squid Games.
Huh.
He is phenomenal as well. The casting is great. I immediately went and looked at the writers to see who was given credit for the like head of this, and I was glad to see George Lucas was at the table, but he was not the one credited for the writing.
Mm-hmm.
The main writer and producer or director, I can't remember in the credits, is Leslie Headland. She's doing a phenomenal job. I have nothing but great things to say about this. I think it's well written. It's an intriguing story. I think they're using a very overdone trope within it.
Okay.
But I'm excited to see how it pans out, because I think from the first two episodes were super strong, super awesome. I have no notes. I think it could go sour if they do the trope incorrectly.
Isn't
That's
it
my
supposed
take
to be
so
like 100 years before the Phantom Menace?
It does take
Mhm.
place 100 years before the rise of the Empire.
Ooh.
So in the first two episodes, there's really no spoilers to
No
share here. We
spoilers,
haven't
stop.
seen any familiar faces yet. I'm waiting for a Yoda cameo because he was obviously around.
Yeah.
It's also very interesting. I know I'm going off on a tangent here. The most interesting thing about it that my boyfriend and I talked about at length for a little bit after finishing it is the experience of what the Jedi Order was like before the Empire. It's
prime.
very different. They are portrayed as almost monks. The quote of Jedis don't draw their lightsabers without intent to kill is thrown out, which I think is super interesting.
Oh yeah.
Considering that
funny.
we never hear that sentiment in the original trilogy or in anything that came out in the Skywalker saga. So it's a very interesting time to look at for Jedi.
100%.
If you haven't watched it yet, please go watch it. If you've never seen anything Star Wars, you'll probably be confused, but it's still great. I think it's a great story so far. It's got interesting characters. The only hiccup is that one of the actors that plays one of the, I would call him a supporting character, in an interview mixed up Darth Vader, Anakin, and Luke within the span of like 30 seconds. I think he said Anakin blew up the Death Star.
Oh.
So that wasn't a great look for that
Awesome.
individual, but I'll stop ranting about it. It's great. Watch it. Definitely worth your time.
It's a good reason why I watch the prequels too. It gets you.
I'll make mine real quick. I got a Kindle a couple weeks ago.
Yay, Kindle reading! Yay!
Gonna be doing some traveling soon, and I figured this would be easier to pack. For anybody who has ever had a consideration about getting one, I kind of love this. I only started using it today, but the reason why I even started using it was because I wanted to start reading a book while I was waiting for some stuff for the last episode of the podcast, and I didn't have any books on my shelf that I was like, yes, I want to read this right now. It was so nice to hop on this thing. One, it's got a friggin' backlight, which, like, that's just nice. Like, it actually, like, it looks pretty bright. It's because it is. And it's set pretty low right now. But then I could buy the book I wanted. It cost me, I think it was $1. And I could just start going. The convenience is so nice.
You read books faster.
Yeah.
Because you're not looking at page numbers and time considerations.
I still do that.
I tend to read faster on my Kindle, but it's also dangerous that I have the like minutes left in the chapter on the bottom right.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one.
You can take it off if you tap it, it goes away.
Good to know.
It also can change the metric that it's going off of. Minutes left in chapter, percentage through the book, things like that.
I have both of them right now, and it's scary. I'm getting close to halfway through this book already.
Fun.
For sure. It's a good investment.
Well worth it. Well worth it. Highly recommend. All right. Thank everyone for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our discussion today. We release these episodes weekly, usually, But next week we're taking off. This is the end of our season 2. We'll be back the week after for the start of season 3. If you're going to miss us, though, and you want to come and hang out with us, we're going to be in the Snowflake Sanctuary Discord server. If you want to offer your own insight, you have any ideas on what you want to hear, you think we just sound like a cool group of people, click the link down the doobly-doo. Come say hi to us. Taskless Bandito.
Share our
thank you guys-
videos.
Yes, share our videos, please. Be appreciated. Task Bandito, thank you guys so much for joining us. Really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having us.
Someone's got to have the energy.
Thank you to everyone else for listening to us, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye.
No
Put
task.
that second
Two-handed.
hand up right now.
Yeah. You just won.
Damn it!